We're joining us right now on the live stream. Talk more NFL. He'll be joining us bi-weekly throughout the entire football season. You can catch his show Saturdays at 8 a.m., Faith on the Field, and the Encore, 6:30 on Sundays. He is Rob Maaddi, and he joins us right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, how you doing today?
Yo, what's up, Josh? Fantastic job over there in Mike's chair. I appreciate all the work you're doing, man. Good stuff.
I appreciate it. You know, it's I'm like a chicken running with my head cut off. You know, it's a one-man show over here. So
I like it. You're doing good stuff, man.
So I want to ask you because, you know, you are covering the league as a whole now. You know, obviously one of the topics right now is the Eagles left tackle situation. And I can't get out of my head Greg Little being traded today because he was in the same draft class as Dillard. Little and Dillard. It's hard for to say, but still, you know, he was the fifth tackle. Dillard was the first. And Carolina got a seventh-round pick for him. So I'm starting to wonder, you know, the Eagles is looking more and more like Mailata is going to win this job. So what exactly would Dillard's value be if the Eagles were to trade him, if the same guy from his class, who was a second-round pick, got a seventh-round pick in return?
I don't think, Josh, he has much value at all, none whatsoever, because he hasn't put much on tape. He hasn't put much on film. He sat out all of last year, and what we saw of him as a rookie wasn't all that much, and he wasn't all that effective. So at this point, I think the Eagles are better off keeping him, hoping to develop him, hope he gets healthy in time to actually compete, because right now he's week to week with this knee injury. You're not going to see him out there. It's Jordan Mailata's job to lose. And for the Eagles, having invested a first-round pick in Andre Dillard, they're better off, to me. They're better served keeping him, hoping he can come around, develop, do something with him, because you don't have much trade value. What are you going to do? Get another sixth or seventh round pick for him? At this point, I would rather see if you can salvage something with him. And I'll say this: I'm not ready yet to give up on Andre Dillard. I thought he came in with a really good mindset. I like where he had been mentally. Now, will that translate physically on the field? Can he perform? We saw that he wasn't getting the job done early in training camp before he got hurt, but I'd like to give it a little bit more time.
Does it concern you at all the Eagles like having versatile offensive linemen, and Dillard apparently, at least according to him, can only play left tackle? Is that maybe a demerit in his column?
You know, I thought earlier in the summer, had Andre Dillard performed as well as Jordan Mailata, that versatility that Jordan has would work against him as far as being a starter. Because if they're of equal or close to it, you can play Dillard and leave Mailata as your sixth lineman in case somebody goes down early in the game or at any point in the game. He can come in at right tackle, left tackle, anywhere really except center on the offensive line. Now, that versatility that he has, as you just said, Andre doesn't have that, and that certainly will work against him. But I think what works in his favor is the fact that Howie drafted him in the first round, and I think that carries a lot of weight.
Rob Maaddi joining us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, at Rob Maaddi on Twitter. Rob, you put out a tweet about Jalen Hurts, and it completely opens the door for what I want to ask you about, because you tweeted out, I'll put it up on the screen for everybody watching on the stream. You say Jalen Hurts' teammates believed in him since last year. Management hadn't been convinced. That's why Eagles explored quarterback options. It's smart for the team to hype Jalen regardless. Finding out if he can be QB1 in 2022 remains top priority. Personally, I'd bet on Jalen. And I love that last part especially because, to me, you have a young man who has shown himself to be a leader everywhere he goes, to the point where Lane Johnson brought him to his workout facility to work out with him and be a part of the offensive lineman lifting. All the players are drawn to him. He handles his business like a professional everywhere he's been, but also he's on his fourth different offense with the Eagles this year. So I love the fact that you're putting it out there because, to me, I feel like every quarterback in Philadelphia has been given a chance. Kevin Cobb, Sam Bradford, Nick Foles, Michael Vick, Mark Sanchez, for God's sake. Like, it's ridiculous. The quarterbacks who have come through here. Oh, and by the way, Carson Wentz as well. So, to me, I just want to see Hurts get a fair shot. And I think if he gets that fair shot, I think he can prove himself.
I agree wholeheartedly, Josh. I think this is a guy who has proven himself to be a winner everywhere he's been. He handles himself so well. He checks off all the boxes with the intangibles. We see the leadership ability. We see the way he can handle adversity. He was thrown into a terrible situation last year. He comes in replacing the franchise quarterback who's been benched after playing horrifically. He comes in as a second-round pick being used in a Taysom Hill type role, and he handled himself great. And his teammates immediately took to him, his attitude, his personality. They like who he is. He checks off, as I said earlier, all of the boxes. And I was kind of reacting a little bit, Josh, to I forget who it was, and I apologize. I think Jordan Schultz. Jordan Schultz put something out today about more and more people are telling him, Eagles players. And what I was saying is, if you've paid attention to the Eagles, if you've covered the Eagles, if you've talked to players, this isn't new. His teammates have been saying since last year, since he first stepped on the field, that they believe in him. The question all along hasn't been, can Jalen Hurts win over his teammates? Is, can Jalen Hurts convince management that he can be the franchise quarterback? And he hasn't yet. Understandably so. He's played 4 games. They've been so-so, up and down. We don't know enough about Jalen Hurts. So I don't fault management for exploring other opportunities. However, if I were management, if it was me, I would bet on Jalen, but I want to give him every opportunity this year in 2021 to prove that he can be the guy. Surround him with the talent, the supporting cast, the blocking up front, the system and the scheme, and let's see what he can do. Before you rush to trade 3 or 2 first-round picks for anyone, let's see if Jalen Hurts can do the job. Let's see if he can be that guy. And for me, no matter what the Eagles do this year, I don't care if they go 6-11 or 8-9. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. I think if you come out of this season with an answer on Jalen Hurts and you know whether or not he can be that guy, then this year was a success. And even if he isn't, but you know definitively that he's not that guy, then at least you know next year you now either target someone in the draft or you go after somebody else.
And as you said, I love the word you used, the number 6. You got to be better than last year, Rob. Anything better than last year's 200 injuries and a quarterback who just had just such a rough year, and then you fire the head coach who won you a Super Bowl. You brought in a new head coach. You got to go up from here. To me, the biggest thing is you got to show progress. And for Sirianni preaching fundamentals and going out there and putting Jalen Hurts with every first-team rep, this has to result in some sort of progress that is more wins than last year, or this year is going to be a huge eyesore for the Eagles.
Oh, I agree, for sure. I mean, this year you go 4-11-1. You got to be better this year. And I know it's a rebuilding year, but you're in a division where you're not going to be dominated by the other 3 teams. Those 3 teams, those 4 teams in the NFC East might be at the end of the season separated by 3 or 4 games. You can have the last place team winning 6 and the first place team winning 9 or 10. In fact, I don't think the first place team, and right now I lean towards Dallas, assuming Dak can come back and be healthy, I don't see them winning more than 10 games. So I think everybody will be right in that mix. The Eagles have to win more than 4 games last year, and I think it would be an abysmal failure if they don't win at least 4 games. I saw them. I feel they're in the 6 to 8 win category, but more and more I've been feeling I'm closer towards the 8 side of it than I am the 6 side of it. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to how healthy is the offensive line. If you have a stable unit up front, the offensive line can be the difference between 2 and 3 wins, especially with the talent they have on that right side, Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, and in the middle with Jason Kelce. If they can be who they've been when healthy, I think that will serve not just Jalen Hurts very well, but the entire offense, and it could be a difference maker for this team as far as 6 wins or 8 or 9.
Rob Maaddi joining us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, covers the NFL for the Associated Press. Rob, this transition to the NFL, one of those quarterbacks the Eagles worry, in talks to maybe see if he could replace Jalen Hurts was Deshaun Watson. And this situation is getting more and more disturbing because Apparently, there's a grand jury situation going on with him. There's reporting how the FBI is now getting involved. He's in and out of camp. He blew up at reporters last week. This situation is looking worse and worse for a guy who many people thought could be a face of the league when he was drafted. And now it looks like his entire life, football and otherwise, is just going completely sideways, all because of his own doing.
You know, Josh, this was one of those situations where when I heard the news, I was shocked. I was stunned because Deshaun Watson wasn't. Sometimes you hear things, you see things, and you go, I could have seen that coming, or yeah, it doesn't surprise me. In this case, I was absolutely floored. I was blindsided by everything that's been reported about Deshaun Watson. And then reading some of the stories, I think SI did some really deep investigative stories, talking to some of the victims. Very disturbing, horrific stuff. And I don't know what's going to come out of that from the legal standpoint. I know that the NFL has kind of is waiting and still waiting and wanting to see. And then Houston, he's demanded a trade. He's demanded a trade before all this stuff happened, as we know. Otherwise, he would have been gone by now. But as long as he doesn't play right now, I think the NFL is going to sit still. All that aside, if I'm a GM, I don't know how you justify it, man. I really don't know how you could justify to your fan base trading the assets it would take to acquire a guy. I know he's extremely talented. He's immensely talented. But to justify doing that for someone who is going through what this is, it must be taken seriously. This is not something that we can brush aside. And I don't know the truth, but I've seen enough to be scared to look at it and say, I can't pull the trigger on a deal for Deshaun Watson, and I'll be surprised if anybody does until all of this has played out, and that could be a significant time period from now.
Does it also concern you, Rob, the NFL's history of being inconsistent when it comes to these situations? You know, Greg Hardy got a second chance. Ray Rice didn't get a second chance. Josh Brown, they didn't even let him get to the season. They told him to get out of town on the next train, basically. And also, but years ago, Dante Stallworth, drinking and driving, killed somebody, and then a year later is back in the NFL. It feels like the NFL does not have a consistent track record when it comes to dealing with these off-the-field issues. Does that part also concern you when it comes to this Watson situation?
Absolutely. And as a man of strong faith, I always believe in second chances and third chances and fourth chances because I personally need them myself. I'm a sinner. I always want another chance, but I always want to give someone another chance if they're genuinely remorseful. So I don't know. In some cases I've seen, like, for example, Michael Vick. I got to cover that up close and personal. I got to know Michael Vick, got to do one-on-one interviews with him. He served his time in prison. He was genuinely remorseful, and then he wanted to make an impact on other people. So that was a guy who was well deserving of a second chance. Ultimately, I can't judge anyone's character. I don't believe anyone of us can judge anyone's character. So I do believe in second, third, and fourth chances for any player, any athlete out there. But I would hope that there's genuine, sincere remorse before they get that opportunity. I don't know that the NFL really cares too much about how remorseful someone is before they give them another opportunity. They seem to always react, Josh, to public perception. We saw that way back. I was up close and personal with the Ray Rice situation and the reporting that I had on what happened with Ray Rice, and we saw how they reacted to the general, to public's perception and reaction and outrage before they kept changing what they did with Ray Rice. So I don't see how the NFL they need to find a way to be consistent, and they certainly aren't.
Rob, let's talk about a couple other quarterbacks around the league, because obviously the quarterback position is under dead focus with a lot of teams right now. And these quarterback competitions are turning out to be very interesting. You see what's going on in New England. Cam Newton told the media today, I don't know what's going on. You know as much as I do. You go out to New Orleans, they literally told Dan Graziano of ESPN, if you interview Jameis Winston, you have to interview Taysom Hill. You can't have it be one or the other because this is a fair quarterback competition out there. Whatever that means, I don't know. But I'm just saying, I'm just reiterating the story. It's it's just so strange.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Out there in Denver, Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock is probably the most forgotten story in the NFL. And then, of course, you have the quarterback competition that supposedly isn't a competition. That's the Justin Fields situation in Chicago. So, give me your around the league perspective on these QB situations.
I think a lot of them still have to be played out, and I believe let's look at New England for example. I think they're going to start off the season with Cam Newton as they groom Mac Jones into that position. And I watched a lot of that game last week, and Cam Newton certainly is trending on the downside of his career, but I'm not ready to say that he doesn't have anything left. And while Mac Jones is their future, when you have someone like Cam Newton, and you think you might potentially, Bill Belichick wants to win football games, right? So you're going to go out there and you can be patient with Mac Jones. Then you look around the league and you look in San Francisco, for example. Trey Lance has a tremendous amount of talent through that big touchdown pass in the first preseason game. They traded up to take him in number 3. But the 49ers also have Jimmy Garoppolo, who led them to a Super Bowl appearance. You can be patient a little bit with Trey Lance and allow Jimmy Garoppolo to groom him, to play ahead of him a little bit. Then you look at the other situations, as you said, in Chicago. Andy Dalton was, remember when before Justin Fields, and wasn't it the Bears Twitter account who put out QB1?
Yes.
Right? QB1. Now, how regretful is that if he doesn't start week 1 for the Chicago Bears? But that's another one where you got Andy Dalton, you got Nick Foles as your number 3. I don't know how he's still there as the number 3 quarterback. There's a lot of teams, I think, who can use a Nick Foles, the Dallas Cowboys being one of them. I keep trying to stir that pot, try to get – I'd hate to see Nick Foles in a Cowboys uniform, but it would be so weird. But he certainly would be a nice fit there, especially if Dak isn't healthy. But again, you can – with Dalton – you can slowly work Justin Fields because I don't think the Chicago Bears are going to be a contender this year. However, you can say this, when teams are going to be losing out of the game, you have rookie quarterbacks who may not experience what it feels like to be on the field with their teammates, suffering defeats, taking a beating and losing and being on a sideline. You can say that you want them to be involved so they can feel what it's like to absorb that kind of loss and have to deal with that adversity. So now they're better equipped to handle it in the future as starters. So I think each team's going to go on a team-by-team basis. Trevor Lawrence is the one guy who I feel and Wilson should be starting week 1. Other than that, with the other guys, I'm like, all right, let's wait and see.
Rob, one more before I let you go. You mentioned the Cowboys. By the way, your guest last week, Harold Carmichael, ended his Eagles career on Dallas. So
weird, huh? Well, you forget that. It's kind of crazy that he did.
Yeah, the fact that it's hard to even find pictures of him in a Cowboys uniform should probably tell you everything you need to know at that point. But the Cowboys are on Hard Knocks this year, and I got to admit, episode 1 was probably the worst episode of Hard Knocks I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was so dull. It was so uninteresting. I like the fact they're focusing on less, nobodies and more star players. But I'm sorry, but they spent half the show talking about Zeke Elliott giving a gift to Dak Prescott. It's like really, is that where we're at? Like, are we that bored at Cowboys camp? We're watching Zeke wrap a gift for Dak. I mean, I understand Jerry loves Jerry in Dallas, but I mean, if this Hard Knocks doesn't get any better, I don't know how I'm going to survive this season, Rob.
Josh, Hard Knocks is kind of like reality TV. I got a little experience in that, and they got to create something that's going to capture audience and make them want to watch. I don't know. I'm with you. I wouldn't want to watch that. I'm in transition. I moved from Jersey to Florida. I don't even know if I have HBO. I got cable put in. I got cable put out. I'm trying to get DirecTV so I can watch all the games when I'm not at a game. I'm trying to figure all that stuff out, but that to me seems like a snooze fest.
Oh, it really is. And it's so ridiculous because last year we had the Chargers and the Rams, and there was no preseason games. So they bunkered them two together. And this year it's like, we know that the Cowboys are such a hype team, but then Hard Knocks picks them. It's a boring first episode. And I'm just sitting here thinking, after watching the Cowboys preseason game on, Friday night, I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to watch this team this year. Like, I never thought I would actually be at a point where I'm indifferent about a football team, Rob. But to me, it's like the Cowboys have been so hyped for so long, and now you're just like, can we just get to the season with this team? Because I just want to see them on the field.
Yeah, and I wonder how much you're going to see Jerry Jones in front of those cameras, because he's never met a camera that he didn't like. He's so camera friendly, and he's always willing to be in front of the microphone. And so he helps me out when we're at the owners' meetings, because you can always count on Jerry. You'll see other owners walk on by, but there's Jerry. He'll come over. He'll address all the rules changes and anything else that you want to talk about. I think the whole America's team Cowboys thing is so played out, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in how many years now? It's been so long that they haven't won over 2 decades. I do believe they have the talent to win the NFC East and all that firepower offensively, but their defense, I like the addition of Micah Parsons. Other than that, there's a lot to be determined with this Cowboys team. That's why I think the NFC East is really up for grabs.
He's Rob Maaddi. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Rob Maaddi. Check out his show on Saturdays at 8 a.m., Faith on the Field. And he'll be back with us on Thursday to talk more NFL right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, always appreciate you jumping on. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you, man. God bless.